All right, welcome to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm so excited to have another episode for you guys, and not just another episode. This person is very special to me, has helped me on my journey and so forth. So I'm glad that she could give me some time out of her very busy schedule to kind of share that wisdom and knowledge, but also care and kindness that she has given to me. Without further ado, I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Thank you, Michael, for allowing me to come and join you on your podcast. My name is Dinah Schaller, and I am the lead social worker at the Lenore Croudy Family Life Center at Mott Community College. And what we do at the center is we really work towards trying to remove barriers that may be in the way of students trying to pursue their education. And when students come to see us, we walk alongside them to see how we can help assist them with any of the needs that they may have. So that's my position in a nutshell.
Thank you for that. Wow. So that's a very awesome thing. Working for a facility that, one of the main focuses is eliminating barriers. And, as we all know, we've walked through life and different things have happened. But I think it's important for myself and for the listeners to kind of get a sense of how Dinah Schaller became Dinah Schaller and so forth. And if you don't mind, if you can kind of give us, that journey, to walk us through that and so forth.
Sure. I've told this story before, but when I was graduating from high school, I'm the first member of my family to go to college and graduate from college. So when I was graduating from high school, my goal was to either drive a bus or pump gas. But we don't pump gas anymore, but back in the day, you used to actually have people pump your gas. So those were my two goals for jobs, because I didn't think I would, because college was never talked about. College was not something that was encouraged. It was really just go get a job, do whatever you can do. So I ended up landing at Mott for a semester because I didn't feel like I had the academic skills to go to college. And I did really, really well my first semester. And then from there, I was like, wow, maybe I can go to college. And so I ended up applying to a couple 4-year schools, and I had been working and putting away money, so I had enough to pay for my first year. And so I went to Central. And then when I was at Central, I realized, I guess you don't really know what you're experiencing in your home life until you get outside of it. And then you're like, oh, wow, like most people don't, grow up with two people that are functioning alcoholics, or, they don't watch all this dysfunctional things happening in your home. So I kind of was able to participate in experiences on the campus that allowed me to grow as an individual. And I was really lucky because I was surrounded by a lot of really supportive people, and, Central had a lot of great programs. I became a resident advisor while I was there. I became an orientation mentor while I was there. And all through those experiences, I just started to realize that, wow, I had something to bring to the world. And so then I graduated and I went and became a residence hall director, which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but people who run the residence halls where students live. So I did that for 6 years, and I did it at my first one was North Manchester College. My next one was Grand Valley State. And then I went to California and I did it at Cal Poly Pomona. And then I ended up getting my certification in drug and alcohol counseling because I grew up in an alcoholic home. And I always knew that I wanted to do something to make a difference. And after all that experience, I decided to go ahead and get my certification. And I ended up getting a job at Caltech, which I don't know if you're familiar with Caltech in California, but it's where a lot of really intelligent individuals land. It's like, JPL and Einstein taught there. So it's like the MIT of the West. And so they brought me on to be the drug and alcohol prevention coordinator. So I was working with the college students on kind of educating them on what substances do to your body. Why do we choose to use substances? How we use substances to cope? Even you can be the most intelligent person in the world, but you can still have areas of struggle. So I did that for a few years. And then I moved back to Michigan. And then I decided, well, I first of all applied to get my master's in social work started there, then moved back to Michigan, then finished my social work degree at University of Michigan. And then I started doing school social work, and that's for 25 years. I've been working in the education system. And my big goal is, and my compelling why and what gets me up in the morning is I just really want to be able to be the change that I want to see in the world. So I know there's a different way to do it than we've been doing it. Because I'm a school social worker, a lot of times people would call me and ask me just to take these kids and do something with them, just put them somewhere, do something with them. And I didn't really feel that that was the way we help people, that it's environments that need to change. And so through all of that, I just really felt that I had a story. I've experienced a lot of what other people have experienced. I grew up in poverty. I've had a lot of barriers, and from somebody who thought she was going to pump gas or, drive a bus, I have my master's. And if you would have asked me, if you would have gone back and asked that, young Dinah, what are you going to be doing, in this many years, I would have been said pumping gas or driving a bus. So I think that's one of the reasons that attracted me to come to Mott, was because that was my jumping off point. And I feel like if we can really wrap around all students wherever they're at in their journey, that they have the potential to achieve almost any goal that they can achieve. Now, will it be on the same, pathway? Everybody doesn't go on the same pathway. I took time off before going to school. I had gaps in my things. So I think it's just that we keep supporting people and meeting them where they're at. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Thank you for that. You kind of dropped a lot of nuggets there. And I appreciate that. One of the things that you had said, is wrap it around all students and so forth. And that's something that, I strive to kind of, push and help advocate with, because I'm a person that comes from, poverty and so forth, a broken, dysfunctional home. But also I landed in the system. But even if I never landed in the system, I still had the dysfunction in a broken household and so forth. And I just think about how do you as an individual, and I'm gonna use the term aging out because everyone aged out of their childhood into an adulthood at some point. How do you just take that leap, if you don't have a functioning family, or even if you do have a functioning family that has probably, in today's middle class, so forth, afford college and continue to pursue college, and focus, because for a lot of people, college is a very touchy subject. It's a very hard subject to choose and to pursue, because society as we know it nowadays is a lot more expensive. There's a lot more barriers if you don't have the proper finances to pay. If you don't fall in the proper lines of financial aid, you most likely are going to have to work for your stint of college, and that takes away from you fully focusing on your education. Because there was a time, probably before me, where college was affordable, where you just go off and you focus on school for however long that you need to finish. Now you have to focus on school, working 2 or 1 job to maintain housing and so forth, figuring out somewhere to stay when campus closed, so there's so many different barriers and so forth. And one of the biggest things about my podcast, I talk about the foster care community and the child welfare arena, but I think this is a thing with education that is hard now. Mm-hmm. It is, unless people want to pursue it because of the route that they have to pursue, the pathway they have to do. And there's other things called vocational school and so forth, but it's hard to think about taking time away and not making money.
Right. Right. And I totally understand that, because when I went to college, my dad was making too much money, so I really had to pay it on my own. And then he lost his job after my first year. But so I had all the financial aid, but that's why I ended up becoming an RA, because I had to to pay for housing and things like that. And I was also motivated not to go back home, so that helped me a lot too. And I think one of the the best pieces of information I can give people is just to reach out to people that you run into and just tell them your story, and don't be afraid to share with them, because I think something that is occurring, I'm involved with a lot of basic needs insecurity work, and I'm involved at the Hope Center, and they do a lot of national work and stuff like that. But I think more colleges are paying attention to that than they used to. And so it might take a while to find the right person, but you just keep reaching out and keep talking. And if it's not your advisor, but a counselor, or even if it's another student, because a lot of times the students will be able to tell you where to go before the faculty or staff will. But it's just that persistence piece, which is, and I know my first semester, because my parents were very upset that I was going to college, because they didn't want me to spend the money I saved. They thought that was a ridiculous waste of money. And my first semester, I was on academic probation after I was done, because I didn't know, nobody had taught me how to study or do any of that stuff. And so I had to learn that through experiences. And I think a lot of people are doing the same thing now. It's through the experiences that they learn, and that it's okay to make a mistake, because that's how we learn. And what we do is, when we make a mistake, we drop back 10 yards and punt, and we try it again differently. And we try to surround ourselves with people that will be helpful. And that's, I think, one of the things that helped me a lot was I just found really helpful people. And I asked them, point blank, how can you help me, or what can I do? And I was able to benefit from those things because I did that. But, I'm also a white woman of privilege. So I know that it's a lot different than somebody of color or somebody in a different situation. But if you can find somebody that can partner with you and walk alongside you, I think it's really important, because the systems are difficult to navigate. I can 100% say that. And so that's why I like the work that we do at the center, is because we have peers that will sit with the students and help them navigate the systems. And especially since COVID and everything that's happened, there's so many more systems that we have to try to get through. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. You think, well, I just call this number and I'll get an answer. Well, that's not always what it is. So hanging in there, and even if it takes you longer, and even if you have bumps in the road, you just keep coming back and trying. And that's like one of the gifts that I think you have, Michael, is that you have that grit, and not everyone, a lot of people aren't going to go through the traditional route anymore. And you may start out like I did. I didn't, I got my bachelor's, but then I got my certification. I didn't go straight to, my master's in social work. But, if there's a ton of certification programs that people can go into that begin you on the process that you want to go into. So it's just, and I know it's hard to take that risk, but, try to find somebody that can support you during that process.
Definitely. And you mentioned something, you had said, finding people to connect with. And I can kind of speak to my own story. I aged out and went straight to college, after graduating from my 21st high school and so forth. And it was an alternative high school at that. And went to community college. I started at, Delta College, and I didn't know what to do. I kind of was floating, like I just felt very awkward in that environment. And I thought, because what was told to me as a foster youth was, you get to college, you got it, you made it,
Right.
That's it. Like, there was no other, like, you make sure you do this, and this.
Right,
Like, there was nothing that was like, you get there, you good, So I got there and I thought I was good. Lo and behold, I did enough to make it and to be able to apply to SVSU and so forth, got to SVSU, and life hit the fan, and I still felt that awkwardness and uncomfortableness. And I just left. Like, I basically ghosted school, and education did not stop for me there, but it stopped being the focus, You know, I did work out and in jobs, doing everything from car detailing to landscaping to, you know,
Yeah.
working in restaurants, fast food, retail, everything. I got a couple certifications in that time spent. And I found my way to the field that I work in now, you know, working in juvenile facilities and residential placements, you know, mentoring and so forth. Um, but what I did not do, which ultimately was one of the biggest pieces to me becoming homeless and so forth, was I did not have a support to fall back on. I
Right.
was doing it on my own. I'm not afraid to say that at that time in my life, I became very prideful. You know, when I came out of the system, everything happened to me. I had to make a lot of decisions on my own, and there was no one there to bounce those decisions off of.
Right.
And once I got a car, got a place, I thought I had it. Like I didn't need anybody else's opinion and so forth. But also, like I still had that feeling of longing for family and support. It just like I couldn't think about that.
Right.
So when I got in a car accident, and eventually that car accident was a domino effect, to me losing my place and staying with friends and that going sideways, I found myself homeless and so forth. When I found myself homeless, I had to really humble myself and really think like, all right, now Michael, like, what's the plan? What are you going to do? Like, because this is not it. Like, I had a very clear realization when I saw the other people in the shelter with me. And nothing against them, some of those people, I love them. They gave me so much knowledge and so forth, but I was like, I'm not about to be here. Like so many people have settled in the mindset, this is what I see for myself. I'm going to be homeless and I'm going to bounce from shelter to shelter. That's not what I wanted to do for myself. I remember waking up the next day after one of my MYY coordinators dropped me off, and I was like, I need to go to Michigan Works is down the street. Got my resume cover letter, worked on it, talked to myself, and tried to figure out. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was applying for a lot of different things. I was using like the classes and stuff like they had at the shelter. And then we can say it was a coincidence or whichever. I say it was God. I'm a Christian and so forth. But I ended up meeting the president of mine. Her fraternity came and they did like a little devotional and so forth. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, I need to talk to this lady. Like, I need something, because she's connected,
Yeah.
And I remember going up to her after the devotional and so forth and asking her, I didn't ask her, I kind of stated, I was like, hey, here's my resume and my cover letter. I don't know what you could do, but I really need help getting back into school and finding a job. And I think I said that before even saying my name, who I am, introducing myself. Like I was in a very desperate situation and I knew this person could connect me to something. And I took that leap, I was like, I accepted that I made some very wrong choices. The responsibility solely wasn't on me, but some of the decisions that I made furthering my adulthood after aging out put me in this position. So what could I do for myself to take responsibility and continue forward? I didn't want to stay in the shelter. So what was my plan? And I thought really long and hard because, I was talking to some of the people in the shelter. I was like, I think I want to go back to school. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I want to go back to school because that's my only way out. Like, and I had a lot of people like, oh, no, you probably just need to find a job, because the shelter wants you to get a job and get out,
Right.
I was like, yeah, I can do that too. Like, but I think, for a long term, a job isn't gonna help me, like I'm still gonna be in the situation I was in, kind of just depending on that check by check, and that's not gonna help me because that's gonna put me in a situation where if that check cuts off, like say for instance, COVID happened earlier, I would have been, back homeless in the shelter and so forth. And there was a lot of things that I thought about. I was able to get Pell Grant. I was able to get scholarships. I was able to get a refund each semester to help me with living and so forth. So I made that decision And upon going, I ended up getting connected. I remember, working as a mascot, working as a clerical assistant for the workforce development, then when I'm working for Student Life and working for you as a student champion and so forth. I made sure this time going around in education and pursuing it, that I was like doing things that I did not do the first time.
Right.
I just went to school and I left after class. I made sure that I was like, I need to involve myself. This needs to be where my life is. If I'm serious about this, I need to invest myself in this. So I participated in on-campus events, however way I can work, the connected speaking events, so forth. And I just pushed myself to kind of build a community. And I found my way to you and connecting with, the vice president of workforce, the vice president of student success, and so many other staff there and so forth. And they kind of wrapped around me. And I say that because you talked about meeting people and connecting with people. That's not what I did, and I know a lot of people, are getting still told that same pursuit. And you make it to college good, not even just foster youth, people that have parents, you get there, you okay. You get there, you have made it, like you have did something with your life, but that's not the truth. There's a lot of hard decisions and hard work you're gonna have to put in, like taking notes, doing the homework, staying up late, not getting enough sleep. You gonna have them days where you can't get right amount of sleep and so forth. And that's the truth that we need to be telling to people who wants to pursue education of any route, that it's not easy, but it's worth it, and so forth. But I wanted to share that piece because, that struck with me, and I'm an open person. I like to say, like, I am at a place of stability, but I feel like almost most foster youth, even though I have some sense of stability, I feel like that stability can always be swept from under me. So I'm always working to build a stronger foundation and structure for myself, because I want to be in a place in my life where, and you may laugh at this analogy, but I call it where I don't have what bill I'm going to pay over the other one, but I have, my toaster just broke, I need to go buy another one. Or I can just swipe my card and just get gas and not worry about how much money it costs and so forth. That's where I'm trying to get at in life. And that's my goal and so forth, to be at a place of stability where I no longer have to worry about finance as a stressor,
But I think you'll get there, because you are what you're doing is building a community, and you're finding people that that can walk alongside you. And I think, that's to say, when I went away to college, the first thing I didn't get involved with anything either, and so, but then I started to, I was involved in student life and all these smaller groups that led to bigger, because that's how you get to know, and those people have information, and they have connections, like you were saying, Dr. Beverly has connections, and they can point you in the right direction. And then, but I think what's important is that colleges and universities pay attention, that we have to help students create that. Like, they're not always going to be able to do it on their own. And that's why, having groups affinity groups where students can come and participate, and people like, you can talk to other students that are coming in and say, hey, and I know this might feel awkward, or we're going to meet once a month and we're going to bring people in and introduce them to you. So you don't have to do all that work yourself, because learning how to go to college, unless you've had like years and generations of people that have done it, you don't get it. You don't get the information, you don't get the script. So you're just like kind of fumbling around. And this way we can create those groups and that support system where we can say, here's the script. These are the things that I learned, and I want to pass it on to you, so you don't have to stumble around to get to it. So, but unfortunately, that's it's hard to, when you are trying to just survive, the last thing you think of is, I'm going to join a group, or I'm going to join a club, because it's just more attention and energy taken away from what you're trying to do. But if you at least get connected to one or two things, it actually eventually reduces some of the stress for you. Yeah.
Right. kind of moving forward, there's a couple other things I want to touch on because, once I met you, I was in a place where I was kind of like helping Mott and talking to Mott and trying to figure out like, okay, what can we do to kind of better serve, foster youth and so forth. And at that time, this number may be greater. For you guys that don't know where Mott Community College is, it's in Genesee County, basically Flint, Michigan, which most people, when I say Flint, Michigan, people are going to figure out, where that is, and so forth. But at that time, Mott had, not Mott, but Genesee County had approximately over 600 youth in foster care. And they only had two homes that foster teens. And just knowing the statistics behind foster youth, there's a very small percent of foster youth that actually have good enough academic standing to go to universities and get dorms and so forth. That other percent, where do they go? To trade schools, vocational schools, or community colleges and so forth to kind of figure out that next step and everything. Plus, Mott had, trade programs in itself like beauty school and dental and I'm probably missing a whole bunch of other ones, but there's a lot.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot. So you think about the population that is in Flint and Genesee County, where they've been struck with so many different, things, plus the water crisis and so forth. A lot of those youth are under the, abuse and neglect category and so forth, and they're trying to figure out what's next for their lives. So I was like, me being a homeless youth myself, I was like, how can I take my experience and what happened with me, having people wrap around me and support me and figure out how to make a program out of that. So I connected with, our vice president of student success, I believe. So many different titles.
Yeah, well, he's the vice president of everything now. So
okay. Yeah. So the vice president of everything, his name is Jason, and so forth. And a great guy, and I connected with the vice president of workforce and development, and I was telling him, while working with them and so forth, like, hey, I'm a part of Trio and so forth, but I just don't feel like it connects me to everything I needed. Like, since I've been here, I've had to ask, for help with food, had to ask for help with clothing, have to ask for mental health support and so forth, housing support, and so. And that's just my experience, coming out of foster care and so forth, plus a lot of people don't know, Mott has a high school too, a part of it. So Mott has a unique opportunity, in my mind, I was thinking Mott has a unique opportunity of getting those high school students that still are in care and connecting with them, as they pursue their college education in a campus-based support kind of program and so forth for those foster youth and everything. And I was like, that'll be something cool. So, I think the first go around, they was like, they were open to it, but they really didn't have enough knowledge and so forth. So I connected with one of my other researchers, Carrie Ward from Fostering Success Michigan. And I know she had the numbers and the stats. So I was like, you can talk their lingo to help me out. And we came out of that meeting and they were very open to moving forward. And I ended up connecting with Dinah and just working with her to kind of build and think about how we can connect with the students. We've had a tough time, and even still, I think still have a tough time because of certain barriers with identifying the students, and everything. But we were able to kind of build the base of the program. And if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, we have a basic program. I mean, I'd like to see it grow and develop more. I think COVID made it difficult because we had to do everything virtually, and I think people are so virtualed out, showing up to a Zoom meeting and things like that. Our first kickoff went really well, but that was in person. And then right after that, it went, so we did do 2 years virtually. We're looking at revamping it. I'm hoping by this summer that we can start to do more face-to-face. So I think that would be good. One of the good things that came out of it, though, is we were able to connect with Michaela Porter, who does the foster youth for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and then Alma Sykes, who was in the position at MYI, but not any longer. But the good thing is we've made those connections. And so and another person who works with a couple other people who are with foster youth in Genesee County. So they reach out to us directly now, which is really nice. And I get emails from them and they say, you know, I want the student to know about the center. And so I reach out to the students. But it's still, you know, it's still hard because I think if we were all on campus and somebody could walk the student over, it would be different than doing email introductions. But we have been able to connect with a few foster students. And then we've also worked with financial aid, which has been very helpful having them as a partner in this, is that they want to make sure that we wrap around the foster students to see if there's anything that financially they can get, that we want to make sure that they get all the services that are provided to them in that aspect. And they've been able to identify students who've been in foster care. So we've been able to reach out to them for that piece. But, you know, it's not, I mean, I'd like to have like a designated staff person. That's all they work on, you know, but you know, that's not where we're at yet. So we try to meet all of the different student, like returning citizens, everybody that has a thing that they come in with. We try to provide community partners that we work with or our own system. So, but that was something that you brought to the forefront and people are aware of now, and we can talk about it. And it's part of our culture and climate now at Mott, which it wasn't before. People are aware that, you know, we do have students coming in that don't have, you know, a lot of structured family support around them. And, you know, they do need food and they do need clothes and they do need mental health support and they do need, you know, community navigation, you know, like getting to all the right places to get all the paperwork done. And so we know we can at least provide that part. But as far as, you know, making sure that we have some place for everybody to land safely, like with the housing piece, that's, you know, a big part in Genesee County, you know, and we are working on that. That ideally I'd love to see us have a space where we can, you know, I think there's a lot of students who are struggling with housing right now. We're just down 13% space wise in Genesee County just for housing. So it makes it difficult, but you know, it's just work. It's bringing all those resources together and saying, okay, we're going to find out what your biggest need is and then help you move from there. So, but yeah, I think you changed definitely the conversation about what's happening to former foster youth and how we can provide them with the services. And I know after our first meeting, we were able to get one student hooked up, but then COVID hit and, you know, so it's like, and it makes it hard because a lot of times I think COVID has been specifically hard on students who were in foster care and then aged out. I think it's been really, really difficult for them. And I know that's something we've worked hard on trying to stay in contact with. And you know, because you're working in that with the emergency housing and the support, but we need to have more housing like that. We need to have more spaces where we know people can come and feel safe and not have to worry about being in a shelter with a wide variety of people, but they're all with the same group of students, so they feel comfortable and we can meet their needs right where they're at.
Definitely, you know, and that brought me, I was talking to someone, I can't remember who, but I remember this conversation. I was like, you know, when I was getting ready to age out, they had me apply for like a voucher, a Section 8 voucher and so forth, you know. I think, you know, most people who, you know, get ready to age out there around age 17 and so forth, it takes at least a year or two for you to get on that list. So, you know, my goal in my advocacy, one of my goals in my advocacy with that is if if that person knows their plan and so forth, they're going to try to be out on their own, that we connect them around 16, 17, and we kind of make it in policy and legislation where foster youth can get the exception to actually apply for those vouchers, because you have to be 18 technically to sign up, but that's not helpful because I'm 18, I'm about to get out, they putting me out the independent living place, so like, what you want me to wait in my homelessness?
Right.
Like by that time,
unfortunately, you know, that's true. Yeah. I know.
Right. By that time, you know, I'm couch surfing. So now I've moved from the place where I put the actual application in. I got to put another application in, you know, so that's, you know, my goal in my advocacy with that, to kind of eliminate that barrier, is to try to get, you know, legislators to make an exception under that, you know, for foster youth to be able to apply at age 16, 17. So at least they have a year in on that list and be, you know, it has a better chance. But even as I know it, like, unless, you know, and this is just my experience, unless you are pregnant or have a kid as a woman. Like I have yet to seen an independent male actually get a voucher as far as housing and so forth, unless they have disability or a veteran or so many other aspects. Like I've yet to see like a male like, hey, I need housing, I need support to get a voucher. And there may be somebody out there, and hopefully y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to hear.
But you're true. It is. And the thing about it is, especially in Genesee County, when you came on to the waiting list, or before that, the waiting list was like, they hadn't pulled anybody off the waiting list since 2008. So we just, because of COVID, started pulling people off the waiting list. So we were going back to 2008 to find people who had vouchers, which they've moved all over the place. So you're trying, and now the problem with it is, if you do have a voucher, it's hard to find somebody that'll rent to you with a voucher,
Right.
Because there's not enough space. And right now it's, it's just, even buying a house right now, all it's just a highly competitive environment right now. So not only should legislators have make sure that the rules are flexible and they actually address the needs at the time that they have them, but also that maybe there's a specialized voucher just for former foster youth, and you use that voucher to get into either a housing situation where it's, like a group housing situation, or 2 or 3 other people are running a house together. And instead of saying to somebody who's 16 to 17 years old, here, take this a voucher and run all over the county and find a landlord who's going to rent to you, which is next to, it's not like, and you only have 30 days to find somebody. So, we have people right now that we're working with, families and people who did get the vouchers who can't find anybody that's going to rent to them because they don't want to take a Section 8 voucher.
Definitely. And the crazy thing is, recently, a little bit before COVID, there was works of a voucher specific to foster youth, and I believe it's the FYI voucher and so forth. So it is out there.
Okay.
But
there's no place for them to use.
Only release, like for instance, I believe for Genesee County, they only released 25.
Right. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
They only give a certain amount and a certain number. And I'm like, if you got over 600 youth that's going to be possibly aging out and so forth, what is 25? What is 25 vouchers going to do? Like, it's like, we put the vouchers out there, yay, we did it, but okay, that's it. So we're putting band-aids on problems, and in that time period, we putting poor people at risk. And I was talking to somebody before, like, we don't realize how one choice as a system, that affects so many other things. Because once that person age out, okay, now it's on them to kind of find independency and so forth. But they should have had a plan and take. So whatever that plan was, okay, this person is going to stay here, or this person is going to be in college and so forth. Just having them sign up for a voucher and being like, oh, well, you got it, doesn't help, because what happens is they find themselves couch surfing and so many other things, stressing about being at somebody else's house, or, being a burden, and being next thing because, staying with people is great,
right?
But we know it gets overwhelming, and it does become burdensome. So now you're at another place and you're doing that. Now your mental health is playing a part because you're stressed. You find yourself in a situation of depression. If you have not had previous to actually aging out any substance encounter, you might partake in substance encounters, and now you're doing at-risk behaviors and so forth. And next thing you know, a whole other boat of things happen, and you find yourself in the adult part of the system.
Right.
And like, these things are pipelines to each other, and we don't realize how one decision as far as housing, how that, if you don't have that, it leads to so many other things eventually. It's not just right out the gate, okay, this person is on drugs and doing this. That doesn't happen.
No.
Anybody that has done drugs, or has had alcohol problems or whichever, it all has streamed from a central root problem and so forth. And I don't know anybody, and I'm not saying that there isn't people, but I don't know anybody that shows like, I'm just gonna do, for example, I'm just gonna do crack today.
Right. No, you're usually doing it to cope with a problem that you can't find a way to fix. And that's exactly, and you're exactly right. And that's why we need to come up with support systems that are built into place from day one, and it's not just throwing a voucher at somebody.
Yeah.
It's walking alongside that person. It's making sure they get into the housing. It's making sure that they have, not only once they get into the housing, but they have furniture, because you can throw somebody in a house without a bed, or without a refrigerator, that, they need that, you have to get all of that stuff together. So it's a multifaceted, multi-layered issue. And just like you're saying, that in one decision, like, you can get somebody in a house, but if they don't have any food and they don't have a place to, they don't have a place to sleep, it's not helping. So it's really looking at the person as a whole and saying, how can we help this person be the most successful person that it can be, with providing them, and it's prevention is basically. So instead of intervening on something after it's happened, let's prevent it before it does happen.
Right.
And we all know that it costs way, 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 way less to prevent something than it does to treat something. But we will throw our dollars in the treatment realm because that's historically what we've done. So that's why, you bringing to the attention to the campus and saying, look, we have to look at this from a prevention standpoint. We want to catch people as they're coming in the door. And that's the one thing that, Matt has been trying to do the last few years, is catching them as they come in the door, instead of waiting 2 or 3 semesters in and then saying, oh, gee, we need to help you. So
just getting into my last couple questions, I think a perfect segue out of this, conversation is, in my experience, there's a lot of people that don't understand why there's support after 18 to foster youth or to people who just fall in love. Like, why are we paying tax dollars? Why are we giving money to these people, Right. Like, shouldn't they have it on their own? Like, they should be able to get it. Like, in your experience working in a community college and just being a social worker for the amount of years you have been, why do you think it's important to support people, in that facet?
Right. And because when you help somebody early on, and before it like you said, it turns into some other thing, then you're actually building capacity, and you're saying, okay, we're building your capacity, we're walking alongside you, and then they can achieve their dreams and goals, and then they can like you and then they pay it forward to somebody else. That's right. The ideal system right there. Is that's always something I said to all you guys when you came over to the Family Life Center. I said, I'm going to show you how to do something, but once you learn how to do it, you're going to show other people. And that's right. What we have. We have peers helping peers, because that's the big, and that's a sense of, it's like creating a new family. So you're creating your own family, and that these are the people that you can call if you need something. And it's a lot less expensive for us as a community. And it's a lot more healthier too, because you feel good about it. The student feels good because they're achieving the things that they want to achieve, and nobody wants a handout. What they want is a hand up. They want somebody to grab their hand and walk with them. They don't want you to just give them something like a voucher, but it's like, help me learn a new skill, help me grow, help me trust, help me find a safe place I can land, that I can trust people. So I think that's part of the gift of the center, is that we create a safe place where, we had a lady come over today that we helped her do her FAFSA because she doesn't have anybody's, that's another one. She has nobody's tax information, but she's not older than 25. How do you get around that? What do you do? And those are the small little, like you're saying, those are just small little things. Here's somebody who wants to come to college and wants to change their path, but this small little thing is going to glitch them up. And then they're going to just say, well, forget it. I'm just going to go, So I think that's why it's so important, and we had a student sitting with a student and doing it with her, and we got it done. And, those are the success stories. Now, does it mean it's going to be perfect? No, it never is. But, we're still there in case something else comes up, if another barrier comes in the way or whatever. And then they get really good at it, and then they come back and help other people. So,
Yes, definitely. I think we forget, and a lot of times when legislators are voting on things, or businesses are building things, and we, just in this world of society, we forget that the brain doesn't stop developing until after 25.
Right.
You know, person ages into an adulthood at 18.
And that's somebody who's had everything given to them, and you know, so you
Right.
can't, right, yeah. And I know
In the perfect world
it took me a
with
lot
no
longer
trauma.
than 25.
You know, in a perfect world with no trauma to stunt that
Right.
growth and so forth. But as we know it, most people go through trauma, whether it's big or small, whether it's intense or not intense. Everyone has some form of trauma that they have experienced. So when we look at that and we look at the scientific age, okay, well, your brain starts developing at 25, but also if you had trauma, it probably is still going to be developing at 26 and 7, you know, and so forth. So, like, as a society, we have to understand that. Like, we have to and build upon that. Like, people need support. You know, we can't just stop. Like, okay, 18, whatever. You know, y'all got it. You know, you're an adult. You're responsible. And I think about that not just in our education system, in our criminal justice system. You know, and so on. You know, the brain doesn't stop developing until after 25 in a perfect world, you know, in the perfect world. So we have to look at that at a wider scope. But going into my next couple questions is, and you kind of touched on it, mental health and COVID, you know, just going back in your personal account and then kind of leading us to, you know, working with some of the people you have, how did you maintain your mental health and how did that become important to you as your journey as a young college student to, you know, a seasoned social worker and so forth? Like, what skills did you learn along the way and what things that you had to stumble through and figure out?
Well, and I would say I did access support when I was in college, and I ended up getting connected with a couple of good therapists that were counselors that were working on the campus, and I just kept going through that journey of, you know, it was a constant evolution. It was like I would get, you know, because there was a lot of trauma in my life too, but I would get one area okay, and then it'd be like another one to open up, and then so it was a journey, and I'm still on a journey. I mean, I think it's a journey, and this just being aware of it. And I think during COVID too, I think what happened is it reactivated a lot of things for a lot of us, you know, things that I mean, because it really turned the world upside down. And, you know, we may have all gotten to this place where like, oh, things are normal. There's no such thing like that anymore. And I think the biggest piece for me was I was lucky enough to go through, it's called Search Inside Yourself. It's a mindfulness training. I was lucky enough to go through that with the CRIM in Genesee County, so I became a fellow. But I was going through that during COVID when I was doing all that, and it was so helpful because it gave me some tools and resources that I already had, but I kind of forgot about, and I wasn't using them as actively. And so then starting to use that and being, for me, the biggest gift that came out of that was like, the only moment I have is the moment right now. I can't do anything about what's already happened. And I don't have any control. We know that we have no control of what's going to happen in the future. But if I can be the best person I can be in that moment and make the most out of that, then I can be present for other people, and I can hear them, and I can be compassionate and have empathy. And then I also can give that to myself, which is really important. And I think, because sometimes if we start to beat ourselves up, then we lose access to that thinking part of our brain, and then we end up not doing what we want to do. So for me, I think, you know, the mental health piece is it's okay to be not okay, and it's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to reach out and talk to somebody and say to them, I'm struggling right now. I'm having a hard time right now. And sometimes just getting it out of your head and getting it spoken out into the world just brings things down for you. And we're lucky because we have clinicians at the Family Life Center, and they have been booked solid. Like, people are using them. Our students are, and I think the word is getting around, and students are coming over, and they know it's safe to come over and talk to them. And it's nice sometimes just to come in and just be like, okay, I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to get it off my chest. And then and then we can give them some tips and tools, and then they can go off and start to implement it. And I know that's how it was with my journey too. It's like I said, you don't really know what you're living in until you get outside of it. And then you're like, oh, not everybody does that in their family. It's like, oh, okay. Or, you know, not everybody does that in where I grew up at. So it's just, you know, taking every day as it comes and surrounding yourself with people that are willing to hear you and be compassionate and show empathy. And then if you you know, a lot of stuff is telehealth now, and you can do it over Zoom. You don't have to be face to face. And I know with us, our services are free, and a lot of campuses are like that now. You know, call them up, and even within Genesee County, they opened up a whole new behavioral health system, and it's
Mhm.
free, and it's open 24 hours away, and you can talk and text to somebody. So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's just saying, being okay to say, you know what, I'm struggling, and you know, I seek out support and help, and that's a healthy, strong thing to do, but it's just hard to do sometimes.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for that. And just going into these last couple of things, what's next for you on your journey?
You know, right now, I think I'm just trying to, like I said, be present every day, and just try to make the most out of every day, because I really feel like that's the where I need to be right now. I don't know what my next journey is. I'm open to things, you know, I'm open. There's a lot that can go on. You know, being at a college campus and running a center, and surrounded by a lot of really cool community partners. And, you know, one of the cool things that's coming up at the center is we just partnered with Hurley, and they're putting a kiosk in our personal health room, where so students can come in and actually see their doctors over the kiosk. Because one of the things we know with a lot of young people, or even just now, people haven't been seeing a primary doctor in a really, really long time. And
Mhm.
that's something, when you don't pay attention to what's going on with your body and what's going on with your health, that can lead to other things too. So, you know, so for me, I'm just, like I said, being in the present moment, still working with the people I'm working with, just trying to build things up and provide as much support as we can.
Awesome, awesome. And then lastly, what tips and tidbits do you have for incoming new social workers, foster care alumni, and people who just want to pursue an education?
I would say, first of all, if you show up to campus and you have questions, look for the friendliest face in the room. Go up to them and say, I have some questions and I really need help. Because we've got those people all over campus, and they will take you to the next supportive place that you need to be. And if you get told, just go this, if you get, you know, if you're getting told to go to this place and go to this place, try to find this place where you can get the stop and not have to keep going. But I think one of the big things for like anybody just starting college, or social workers, or anybody, is find those few key people that you can connect to, and that can become your community, and that you can share with. And especially as social workers, social work is 90% relationship. So it's have the, because I call people that I know to help people that I'm helping. So it's about building those relationships, and getting to know what the resources are, and it's through relationships with other people.
Thank you, thank you. Any last thoughts or comments and so forth?
No, I think this is a great thing that you're doing, and I wish you tons and tons of success with it. And I think the more we can get information out there to people, the better, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? And then you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And I just, let you guys know, Mott does have fostering support. There is ever growing and so forth. Dinah said, she's looking to, do some things over the summer and so forth with it. I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's, from 16 to 30 and so forth. And
Yep.
even if, you're beyond that little group,
Yeah, come see
there's
us
a lot of
anyways.
resources at the Lenore Croudy Center and so forth. Like there's a lot of health resources, there's a food pantry, there's, a clothing closet. Even if you just need just a minute to just debrief, on campus or, so forth, that's there. And then also connected to Mott's early child care program, one of the best, I'm going to say, in the nation.
It is.
And so forth, and they're continuing to find ways to eliminate barriers for people who are pursuing college, and so forth. But what I wanted to say, kind of ending out of this, it's important that we are taking care of each other. COVID is real, COVID is out here. I'm not going to get political, but if you guys are thinking about getting vaccinated and somehow you're hesitant, do your research and so forth. And if you find it to be for you, do it. Please do it. If you're not getting vaccinated, that is your choice and so forth. But please make sure that you're wearing a mask. You're washing your hands, you're sanitizing, and you're taking the proper precautions to protect yourself and protect your village, because it takes all of us as a community and as a nation to take care of each and every one of us. And COVID is going to be here. It's probably not going anywhere. There's probably going to be a new variant every so often and so forth. So let's just get comfortable with that, and I know that's hard to say, but let's get comfortable with that and just make sure that we're taking care of each other. Lastly, this is Resilient Voices and Beyond. You guys have a great night, great evening, great morning, great whenever you're listening to this, and just stay tuned for more.